Mikey Williams was facing more than 30 years in prison. Not 30 days, not 30 months, more than 30 years. What's even crazier is that just months before, he was living every young athlete's dream. Millions of people followed him on social media. Companies were paying him millions of dollars before he had even graduated high school. College basketball programs desperately wanted him, and many believed the NBA wasn't a matter of if, but when. At one point, Mikey Williams wasn't just one of the biggest names in high school basketball, he was the biggest. Every time he stepped onto a basketball court, cameras followed. His highlights would rack up millions of views online, and NBA players knew exactly who he was before he was even old enough to vote. He wasn't simply basketball's next superstar, he was basketball's biggest teenage sensation. Then one night changed everything. Instead of preparing for his college basketball debut, Mikey Williams was preparing to fight for his future in court. How does someone go from basketball's next superstar to facing more than 30 years in prison before turning 20 years old? This is the rise, the fall, and the comeback of Mikey Williams. Before the fame and before the headlines, Mikey Williams was simply a kid from San Diego who loved basketball. But it didn't take long before people realized there was something different about him. By the time he stepped onto a high school basketball court, he wasn't simply making varsity. He was dominating it. Every week seemed to bring another viral moment. And unlike previous basketball prodigies, Mikey Williams arrived at the perfect time. Social media was changing sports forever. What's crazy about Mikey Williams' story is that basketball was only part of it. He wasn't simply becoming a basketball player anymore. He was becoming a business. His social media following exploded, and suddenly companies began lining up wanting to work with him. Looking back now, it's almost unbelievable to think about just how quickly everything came together for him. The NBA wasn't a dream anymore. It felt inevitable. Then came one of the biggest moments of his young career. Mikey Williams committed to Memphis, and this was it. Everything he had worked for was finally right in front of him. Millions of followers, millions of dollars. One of the biggest coaches in college basketball believed in him, and his NBA dream had never felt closer. One season at Memphis, then the NBA. That was the plan. Nobody could have imagined what would happen next. Remember when I said Mikey Williams was facing more than 30 years in prison? Well, we're finally here. In March of 2023, shots were fired at a vehicle leaving Mikey Williams' California home following an argument. Thankfully, nobody was injured. But what happened next shocked the entire basketball world. Williams was arrested and eventually faced multiple felony charges. Overnight, basketball became the least of his problems. The headlines immediately changed. Nobody was talking about Memphis anymore. Instead, people began asking whether we'd ever see Mikey Williams play basketball again. The teenager that seemingly had everything was suddenly facing more than 30 years in prison if convicted on all charges. Just months earlier, millions of people were celebrating his future. Now they were questioning whether he had one anymore. After months of legal proceedings, Mikey Williams accepted a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to one count of making criminal threats, while the remaining charges were dismissed as part of the agreement. He completed community service requirements and court-ordered programs before eventually receiving a reduction of his conviction to a misdemeanor after meeting the terms of his plea agreement. Most importantly, he was given something many people thought he would never receive: a second chance. After spending time at UCF, where he officially returned to college basketball, Mikey once again found himself at a crossroads. In 2025, he committed to Sacramento State in search of a fresh start and a bigger opportunity. Today, he's continuing to train, improve, and work toward the goals that once seemed inevitable. The spotlight may not be as bright as it once was, but his story is far from over. At just 21 years old, Mikey Williams still has time to write the next chapter of his career. Will he make it to the NBA? Nobody knows. But one thing is certain. After everything he's been through, his journey is still being written. Remember how this story started? Mikey Williams was facing more than 30 years in prison. At the time, many people believed we'd never see him step onto another basketball court again. Others believed his NBA dreams were over before they had ever truly begun. And while Mikey Williams still has plenty to prove, there's one thing nobody can take away from him: He's still here, he's still playing basketball, and perhaps most importantly, he's still being given the opportunity to write the rest of his story. For some people, Mikey Williams will always be remembered as one of basketball's biggest what-ifs. The player that had everything and nearly lost it all. For others, this isn't the end of his story. It's simply the beginning of Chapter 2. Because at just 21 years old, Mikey Williams still has something many athletes never get after making life-changing mistakes: another opportunity. And whether he becomes an NBA player or not, one thing is certain: